rejoiced as though heaven had lost. But then Jesus arose with our freedom in hand. That's when death was arrested, my life began. Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love pouring down on us. You have made us new, now life begins with you. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yeah, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. Oh, we're free, free, forever we're free. Come join the song of all the redeemed. Yeah, we're free, free, forever, amen. When death was arrested and my life began. When death was arrested and my life began. That's when death was arrested and my life began. By grace alone somehow I stand, where even angels fear to tread.
Welcome to Faith Christian Church. Located in New Philadelphia, Faith Christian serves people and families all over Tuscarawas County and beyond. Our mission is to help people find and follow Jesus. Thanks for checking us out today. Whether you are a devoted follower of Jesus, a skeptic giving this whole church thing a shot, or somewhere in between, you are welcome here. At Faith Christian, we will never assume that you have your life together if you won't make that assumption about us. We are a group of imperfect people who are loved by a perfect God. At Faith Christian, you will experience authentic worship, a life-changing message, safe, friendly, and fun environments for your kids, and real people attempting to live with a real faith. The environment is friendly and casual. Our focus is on God and people. Come as you are, and you'll find a church that challenges you to connect with God and discover what you can become. For more information, check us out online, fccnp.org, or on Facebook and Instagram at FCCNP. We hope to meet you soon.
Good morning, church. I'm so excited that you are here watching service with us another week here into January. It's pretty awesome. I am Luke. I am one of the ministers here at Faith Christian Church, and we would love to get to know you. We would love it if you went to fccnp.org and filled out that Connect card. All right, there's a button right there on the homepage. Just tap that, fill out the form, and we would love to get to know you, whether you've been here for a few years, whether you've been here and this is your first time checking us out. We would love to connect with you. And while you're there, there's a couple ways that you can actually take a next step. And we talk about those next steps a lot around here because we want to help you on your journey wherever you are. And the only way to keep moving forward is to take the next step. So that might be filling out that connection card. That might be your next step. Another way that you could move forward is if you are generous. Maybe that's something that you've never done before, or maybe it's something you used to do and you want to try again. being generous, giving. On our website, fccnp.org, you can tap the Give button, or you can actually text FCCNP to 77977. So you can do that right from your phone, or go to the website and check it out there. There are a ton of different ways for you to keep moving forward on your journey, wherever you are. And we would love to come alongside you and do that with you. We'd love to help you find that next step. So you are going to hear an amazing sermon from Larry here in just a few minutes, some awesome worship music from Andy and the band, and I'm just so excited that you are here worshiping with us this morning.
Working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Yes, I will. I count on one thing. You're the same God that never fails, will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never delayed is working all things out, working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Yes, I will for all my days. Yes, I will. And I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against. And I choose to praise, to glorify, glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, and to you are all things. You deserve the glory. And I exalt thee. I exalt thee. I exalt thee. Oh Lord, and I exalt thee. I exalt thee. I exalt thee. Oh Lord, you are worthy of it all. You are worthy of it all. For from you are all things, to you are all things. You deserve the glory.
You did it. We made it. One of the toughest years that any of us can remember is over. We have turned the calendar over. We have wiped the old year away, and we welcome a fresh start. Happy New Year, everybody. I think we all tend to look at the first of the year as a chance for a fresh start, a chance to wipe the slate clean, a chance to begin fresh. Maybe for you, it's with your family, or maybe your finances, or your weight and your health. There's something about the new year that makes us want to hit the pause button and make it a better year. Maybe you find yourself in a season of life where you just need a fresh start. It's not so much about New Year's resolutions. You're just in a time of transition right now in your life. You just got out of a marriage. You just left your job. You just flunked out of school. Or maybe you find yourself in a season where it's somebody else's fault. Or I don't know, maybe it's your fault, maybe it's nobody's fault, but you find yourself wondering, what now? Because you feel like you're just kind of stuck and you need a fresh start. Well, we're launching today into a 4-part series that we're calling Fresh Start, because we all want to make sure that this new year is not like last year. We're going to dive into figuring out, what does it mean to make a fresh start? How can we make sure that this year is better than last year? And how can we be sure that the choices that have haunted us in our past don't predict or haunt our future? Now, before I get to a very, very powerful verse from Romans chapter 8, I need us to walk through 3 myths. 3 myths that get in the way of us understanding how to make a fresh start. Here's myth number 1. Now, this is a myth. The myth is, experience makes me wiser. Now, the idea here is that I've been through this before, so naturally I'll do better the next time because I have some experience. Now, I was reminded of this last week when I remembered the 3 worst words of Christmas time. Some assembly required. I hate those words because, well, I'll be honest with you, it's because I don't like to read the instructions. And if you're like me, we just try to figure things out as we go. And you would think by now, with a collection of toys and furniture at my house that are just not quite right, you would think by now I would have learned my lesson, but I still hate to read the instructions. Well, the nice part is that the next time we often do a little bit better job than we did the first time, because we believe that experience makes me wiser. Now, the problem with this idea of experience makes me wiser is this. it does make us wiser, but usually in the areas that matter the least. I'll learn from this project and not do it that way again in the areas of hobbies or home repair or assembling my kids' Christmas toys. We learn, we make some choices, we make some changes. The problem becomes that we learn this in the areas that matter the least. We don't learn these lessons in the areas that matter the most. Here's what I mean. Have you noticed that you keep making the same mistakes with your finances or with your relationships? In the areas that matter the most, in the areas of parenting, in the areas of being married, we often make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And we keep asking ourselves, why? Why do I keep making the same mistake? I don't want to hurt your feelings, but it's probably because everywhere you go, there you are. You are the common denominator in all of this, and you keep falling into the same patterns again and again. The truth is, experience doesn't always make us wiser. It might make us older. It's probably going to make us more tired. It might make us poorer or lonelier or madder. Experience doesn't always make us wiser. But an evaluated experience does. You stop and you evaluate an experience and you evaluate the mistakes that you made in the past. Well, that can be a game changer. And that can help you make better decisions in the future. We have to evaluate the experience, which is what we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks. I hope that you'll keep tuning in. Here's myth number 2. Second myth is, I know better, I'll do better. Now, we tend to assume that just because we've been through an experience that we will learn from that experience, that we'll naturally be able to make that better decision the next time. Now, you already know that this isn't always true because we've all experienced this in some way. Maybe think about a common environment like school. We all knew when we were in school, we all knew that if we didn't study, the test was going to be difficult. That if we didn't turn our homework in, we were probably going to fail the class. That if we got plastered at a party on the weekend, we'd be a hero on Friday, but we'd be a joke on Monday. But even though we learned those lessons, we still failed to study. We still decided to not complete the assignment. We still made bad decisions on the weekend. Just because you know better doesn't always guarantee that you will do better. And then we grow up, and we take these things into our adult lives, and the same things, we find the same things are true. Just because you know better doesn't mean you'll do better. Think about how this is true with your kids. Your 16-year-old daughter breaks curfew again, and you're ready to punish her. You're ready to give her consequences for her actions. You even promise the consequences beforehand. But she looks at you with those big sweet eyes and says, "Oh, Daddy, I promise I'll never do it again." And you believe her. And you don't give her any consequences. And the next time, she stays out too late. You know better, you just don't do better. This is true in the area of our money, our finances. You come across this ad on your Instagram feed for 6 months, same as cash for the latest 87-inch TV, and you think, 6 months? I can pay this off in 6 months, no problem. And 6 months roll around and you haven't paid anything. And all of that interest has accrued and stacked on top of each other. Oh no, what have I done? And you finally pay it all off and you think, I'm never going to do that again. I know better. Until you see 12 months, same as cash for that new hot tub. Ooh, that'd be fun. Just because you know better doesn't mean you'll do better. There was a reason why, when we were kids, that our parents would tell us the same thing over and over and over and over again, and we'd be like, I know, Mom, I know. You don't have to remind me every 14 seconds. I know. They kept telling us those things because they knew that just because you know better doesn't mean you're going to do better. And now we find ourselves telling our kids the same things over and over and over again. And the reason we do this is just because they've heard us, just because they say, I know, doesn't mean they'll actually do it. Here's the reason why. Just because we know better doesn't guarantee that we have the ability to do better. It doesn't mean that we have the willpower or the self-discipline or maybe even the spiritual ability to not only just understand better decisions, but to make those better decisions. The myth of, I know better, I'll do better, forgets that knowledge isn't always power, because just knowing what you're supposed to do doesn't mean that you have the ability to actually do it. Here's the third myth. Myth number 3. Time is working against us. We're on the clock, and the clock is ticking, and time is running out, and we're running out of opportunities. And if we don't hurry, we're going to miss our chance. And we see everybody else, they're moving on, and we're stuck. It's kind of like being on a treadmill. And we're running, and we're running, and we're running, but we're not going anywhere. While it looks like everyone around us is going very fast, and you feel like your life is stuck on pause, and they're moving, they're zipping by. All my friends are getting married, and they're all having kids, and they're all getting promotions at work, and they're all buying new houses, and they've all got shiny new cars, and you feel like you're stuck. And the myth that you begin to believe is that time is your enemy. And because of that, we tend to want to rush into everything, and we jump into everything without evaluating, without thinking about it, because everybody else is moving faster than us, and we think our life is passing us by. I think about it like this. If you're in transition from one job to the next, what you really want is to have enough money in savings that you can take your time and make a clear decision about the next job or the next career to take. Now, I know that's not always the case, but wouldn't you love to have that luxury? So why wouldn't we do the same thing in a relationship or in a major life decision? Why do we feel like we need to hurry up and jump in and race to keep up with everybody else? Here's where this gets dangerous. It gets dangerous because we are emotional people. And our emotions are, well, they're kind of like a temperature gauge. And when you're impulsive, or when you've just been through something traumatic, or when you're getting ready to make your fresh start, sometimes your emotions get really high. And unfortunately, we carry with us a little bit of anger, a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of greed, a little bit of baggage from a past relationship. And our emotions get so high, and we don't even know it. We don't even notice it. You see, it's a little bit like when you get sick and you get a fever. When you get a fever, your body is telling you that something is wrong. Your temperature is up. The same thing is true with our emotions. Your temperature goes up. It's telling you that there's something that's wrong, something that needs to cool down. And when we become frustrated, and when we become filled with pain and bad decisions and bad choices, and we need a fresh start, what happens is we become very self-absorbed. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the way we're wired. It's who we are. When you have something traumatic going on in your life, naturally, it's the only thing you can think about. Again, that's not wrong. That's natural. That's the way we're wired. But the danger becomes this. Self-absorbed people just make bad decisions. You see, time is not our enemy. Time is our friend. Time allows us to hit the pause button. It allows us to cool down and get some clarity so that we can make a better decision. Now, here's the thing that I already know about all of these myths, because I know your pushback. I know that you're sitting there watching this and you want to argue with me. No, Larry, you don't know my story. You don't know my situation. If you knew what was going on, you'd tell me to rush in. You'd take me to take the leap. Well, here's the thing. While your circumstances may be unique, you're not. And while your challenges may seem to be unique, you're not. And after you hear enough people's stories, you begin to realize that your story really isn't all that unique. It's just all the same stories just being lived out thousands and thousands and thousands of times. We just can't see that because we're in the middle of it and we're emotional about it. Here's the reality. The reality is God loves you. We love you. Your parents are trying to love you. Your friends may not be answering your text, but they still love you. But if you want the next time to be better than the last time, if you want to have a fresh start in 2021, then we have to evaluate our experiences and let God change our thinking. All through the Bible, you read about people who make fresh starts. You hear these wonderful stories of these significant leaders, these heroes of our faith that we read about in Scripture, and almost every single one of them had a first time, a failure, and a second time. Or they had a bad start, and then they stopped, and then they had a fresh start. And God uses these people to make a significant comeback and to do significant things. Let me give you a couple of examples. Think about Moses in the Old Testament. Here's this guy, Moses, born into the household of Pharaoh. He grows up in Pharaoh's house, and he realizes one day, I'm not an Egyptian. I may live with the Egyptians. I may talk like an Egyptian. I may even walk like an Egyptian, but I'm not an Egyptian. I'm a Hebrew, and I need to do something about all the Hebrew slavery that's going on. And so one day, Moses gets into a fight with an Egyptian, and he kills a guy. He has to flee the country. He's a wanted man. But eventually, he comes back, and he is the Savior of Israel. There was the first time, and then there was the second time. Think about King David in the Old Testament. David was anointed to be the king of Israel. Problem was there was already a king, and he goes to live in the palace with King Saul, the reigning king, living there in the palace. And Saul, probably naturally, gets jealous of this new king, the living in the palace. So Saul kicks David out, runs him off. And time goes by, and David comes back as the king. There was a first try, and then there was a second start. Think about the Apostle Paul in the New Testament. One of the most religious people that has ever lived. He had devoted his entire life to being a Jew and to running off any threats to the Jews. He killed and he imprisoned Christians, and then he comes face to face with Jesus. And he changes his life and becomes a follower of Jesus. And he goes away for a period of time, and then he comes back with a new name and a new mission and a new purpose for his life, starting churches and telling people about Jesus. There was the first time, and then there was a second time. And here's the part of the story that you and I will just hate. Every time that there's a first time and a second time, there's this interval of time. There's a period of time, usually multiple years. Moses, first time, Moses goes away for 40 years. David, it was 8 to 12 years. For Paul, it was somewhere near 14 years. And not only is there this gap in time, but two things begin to emerge in their lives that I want to see happen in your life and in my life. When they reappear, first time, interval time, second time, when they reappear, they have a divine sense of destiny, and they have an abiding humility. As I've watched people make fresh starts, there is always time involved. There is always an evaluation of experience. And there is always a commitment to begin to now see things the way that God sees them. And when they do, they often say things like, I wouldn't trade my experience, my first time, my waiting for anything. I wouldn't even trade my pain for anything. I know they shouldn't have done what they did. I know they were wrong to kick me out. I know it was painful, but what I learned during that time prepared me for the next time. Because that's when God shaped me. And that's when God formed me. And that's when God got me ready for what was next. You see, there's this sense of destiny that God is up to something in their lives. And there's this sense of humility. I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to set goals, and I'm going to be more disciplined, but this time, I'm going to do this all for God, and I'm going to do it with God's help. I don't feel like anything hinges on me anymore. And I want that to be true for you. So let's learn this one verse from Paul. This guy who had a massive fresh start in his life after a series of bad choices. I mean, talk about someone who carried around regrets and a past. He carried around a past that was so embarrassing. First, it made it difficult for him to be around Christians because of what he'd done. He'd been killing Christians. And now he's trying to talk to people about Jesus, and they're scared to death of him. But yet he saw God leverage his past, his first time, and use his past to set him up for his future. Here's the verse. It's Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. That phrase in that verse, all things, that's all the things. The good, the bad, the ugly, the first time and the second time, all of it. So no matter what you've done or no matter what's been done to you, God's grace is bigger than your experience. And it's not just all things, it's that God works in all things, which means that God's up to something. God's doing something. It doesn't matter if you know better. It doesn't matter if you're experienced. It doesn't matter if you think time's running out. If you will allow him, God can and God will work something good out of everything. Now listen, this is not, well, everything happens for a reason. That's not it. This is, everything can be used by God. And this is what we're going to be unpacking over the next 3 weeks. I hope you'll keep tuning in. Now, in my experience, if you don't allow God to work in all things, then all things begin to come back and haunt you. Now, here's probably the most startling thing about this verse. This verse is not for everybody. Oh, it's available to everybody. But you see, it's accessible only to those who love him. For those who love God. For those who have put their trust in God. Not those who are perfect, but those who put their lives in God's hands. God can manage purpose out of anything if you will let him. But if you rush, if you just move on, then you're always going to be needing a fresh start. I don't know what your last year was like. I don't know what your past has been like. But I do know that all of us are in need of God's grace. And all of us need to know that God can and God will work all things out to something good. My prayer for you is that 2021 is better than 2020. My prayer is that you have a chance for a fresh start, not just because you know better, not because you now have a little more experience, not just because time's running out, but because you have decided to put your life in the hands of the one who gave you life.
Communion is a time that we remember. We take a few moments to reflect on what God did for us, what Jesus came to this earth to do. He actually tells us what to do during this time. He was in an upper room with his disciples, with his friends, He knew that one of them was going to betray him, but he still said to them, this bread, it's my body. It's broken for you. This cup, it's my blood poured out. It's the new covenant, the new promise of God's relationship with you and him. Every time you take this bread and this cup, do this in remembrance of me. So church, get your bread, get your juice, and let's remember what Jesus did for us.
Peace, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break. At your name, still, call the sea to still, the rage in me to still every wave. At your name, Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Breathe, call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble.
thank you guys so much for checking us out this morning. Again, if you would like to connect with us, fccnp.org, and fill out that connect card. Maybe find that next step, maybe giving or serving. Find that next step. Let's help you figure it out. And we will see you next week.